How's it going, everybody? Ed Ricker here. A couple hours ago, I was outside doing some filming with the Mavic and the Phantom 4 Pro when I got a little ding, and it turned out to be my friend Jay Malone, who sent me an article from The Hill. Court strikes down ruling forcing toy drone users to register with the government. Reading on, a DC-based appeals court struck down a Federal Aviation Administration rule on Friday requiring recreational drone users to register their model aircraft with the federal government in a major win for drone hobbyists. Wow. So according to thehill.com, LA Times, ABC News, they're all talking about this attorney named John A. Taylor, a recreational drone pilot, who argued that the FAA doesn't have the power to make him register his toy drones because Congress already said the FAA can't regulate model aircraft. You can check out FAA's website for an exact explanation of what Congress defines as a model aircraft. So apparently Congress has said in the past that the FAA cannot regulate model aircraft in such a way, whereas the FAA was saying up until this point that they could. Up until now, those who have been following this rule by the FAA have to have their name and their phone number, their address associated with this unique certification number applied to each and every drone that they fly in the sky recreationally in order for anyone to track that drone back to them if they ever have a crash. And if the circumstance or the location that you were flying in was in any way illegal, then the FAA could track that drone back to the flyer and then could dish out the fines or the punishment as needed. And if you didn't do that, then you could have faced criminal or civil punishments already. So it's pretty interesting that now for recreational flyers, we don't actually have to do that anymore, at least for the time being. Now, the court that actually ruled in favor of this John A. Taylor said that the registration process was, quote, quite extensive as one would imagine for airplanes. And the whole idea here is that small drones, like toys and things flown recreationally, shouldn't have that same registration process. I don't remember the process for drone registration for me being quite that extensive, but whatever. Now, the FAA, since 2012, has been amassing this database of all the drones of over 0.55 pounds in the United States. Their argument is that that promotes safety, that promotes education, that promotes flying smart, as opposed to people who don't have any accountability because their drones are not in any way attached or associated to them as a person. And actually, I think that's not a bad thing. Now, some people are going to be really excited about this, and some people are going to be not so excited. And it's because there are two different ways to think about it. It seems like right now in the United States, we have less oversight, less control from our government right now for recreational drone flyers. We've seen a lot of things happen in other countries, especially like close to home, like Canada, where they've made it almost impossible to fly because if you're following the letter of the law, there's really no place for you to fly in a country as big as Canada. So we don't want that to happen to us. So anytime that we can push back is a good thing, right? Well, the bad thing is that because they've ruled that this is something that cannot be done, now it's in the hands of Congress, and Congress can change the way that they've worded things. Now, according to CNN.com, the FAA now has two potential paths forward. The FAA can appeal to all the judges of the U.S. Court of Appeals for the D.C. Circuit. Apparently, the decision was made by a 3-panel judge. The other path is to appeal to Congress. Congress could insert provisions that support or authorize registration for recreational drones. So the good thing is that we have less oversight from the FAA for recreational flyers. We don't have to pay that $5, and if we have already, we can take off that certification number from our drones. The bad thing is that now that this has happened, FAA is kicking itself into high gear, and I think in the coming months and maybe the next year, we're going to see some things that are going to solidify what some of these congressional statutes actually mean. And then there's going to be no wiggle room at all, no loopholes, and it's going to be set in stone. And it'll be interesting to see how that works because we've gotten, in the last year, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of drones bought by consumers, and a lot of those have been just recreational drones. And the FAA is just not going to let that go by without a fight. I mean, they're going to decide on something, and we just have to kind of see what it is. The good thing is that it shows that people actually care, that they're willing to look into these statutes and really question them and see what exactly can and can't be done, as opposed to the FAA just kind of like running over all of us and we just have to take it. Now, this FAA regulation that required us to register our drones with the FAA as recreational flyers was actually an interim rule from December 2015, and it was actually set to expire later this year. The fact that we've kind of chopped it off at the knees right now just proves that sometime in the future they were already thinking about either revamping or modernizing their plan in order to incorporate some set-in-stone regulations for recreational flyers. So unfortunately, it's probably still coming. Now, one of the responses that the FAA has to this decision, and I'm quoting the lawyers, it says, it's creating a gaping hole in FAA's enforcement authority and threaten the safety of the national airspace system. Well, the AMA president, Rich Hansen, said federal registration shouldn't apply at such a low threshold that it includes toys. It also shouldn't burden those who have operated harmoniously within our communities for decades and who already comply with AMA's registration system. AMA, by the way, Academy of Model Aeronautics. So that is pretty interesting because there are a lot of definitely consumer-grade, recreation-only drones out there that are more than 0.55 pounds. I mean, you even think about the Mavic. The Mavic is about, what, 1.5 pounds? So it definitely falls within that threshold of having to register with the FAA, even if you're flying recreationally. However, even though it says pro in the name, it's not really professional grade. I mean, yeah, it's awesome, don't get me wrong. I built a lot of my channel around this drone. It's not professional grade when you're thinking about video making or flying. It's impressive, but it's no Inspire. And don't even get me started about all the other smaller drones out there that can't even compete. Now, one thing that's interesting, Brendan Schulman of DJI actually agrees with drone registration. He says it's a good policy because it promotes accountability and provides an opportunity for the FAA to educate pilots on the guidelines for safe operation. Now, when I registered my drone, I don't remember many guidelines being explained to me. Yes, I couldn't fly over 400 feet. Yes, I couldn't fly after dark or, something like that. But there was really no education. Some people are also saying that the FAA registration rules were helping to create a culture of safety that deters carelessness and reckless behavior. Now, it's an important thing to note that the 3-judge panel that ruled in favor of Mr. Taylor does agree that safety is important when flying drones and that registering drones may actually help toward that goal a little bit. But they said that it's up to Congress to repeal the ban of the FAA making rules. People like Vic Moss were saying that the issue was so contentious that the FAA might successfully lobby Congress for clear authorization to regulate hobbyists. In other words, getting rid of all loopholes and gray areas and interpretive language. I kind of get the feeling that if someone wanted to do something reckless or illegal or dangerous, they would probably not register their drone anyway for fear that it would crash and then someone would find it. I don't think this registration process really deters any people who want to do something regardless. Now, there are 2 things that I've read so far, and I'm hopping back and forth between devices here. The special rule for model aircraft provides that the FAA may not promulgate any rule or regulation regarding a model aircraft. What does that mean for everything else you can do with a drone? I don't know. There are a lot of gray areas. Like I say, everything's up in the air right now. I'm not sure what to do. Can you fly higher than 400 feet? Can you fly at night as a recreational flyer, but not as a commercial flyer? I don't really know. Don't take my advice on that one. In fact, probably forget I ever mentioned it until you hear it from somebody else. The other thing I thought was interesting is from recode.net. In March, the FAA had said that in one of the next set of problems it plans to tackle for drone regulations will be to craft a way for unmanned aircraft to be remotely identified, which will help law enforcement know who is flying, even if the pilot is not visible. That's probably something that's a little more concerning, and that's a whole video in itself, so keep an eye out for that one. By the way, guys, if you are going to still just register your drone because it makes you feel better, which you still can do, go to registermyuas.faa.gov. Don't go to federaldroneregistration.com. They charge you $25 for the same exact thing. I have a lot of people wondering, Ed, why do you say in your past videos that it was only $5 when it's $25? You went to the wrong website. God! Just go to the Federal Drone Registration's website, go to their frequently asked questions, and go to questions 27 through 30. It'll explain everything. So what do you think? I mean, is this a good thing? Is this a bad thing? What do you think about the future? What's to come? I mean, this is a lot of stuff that's up in the air right now. Comment below. Let me know what you think. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Just trying to keep you guys updated because a lot of you seem to watch my videos as new drone flyers and you take a lot of my advice to heart, and I appreciate that. But I feel like I should always keep you guys updated when stuff like this goes down too. Check out my website, edrickard.com, for video gear, drone gear. Also check the video description for a $50 off promo code for the Drone Pilot Ground School. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Until next time, happy flying and not registering for the most part for now.